everyone, I am here today with Sandy Kay Slawson, who wrote the story A Ruby Red Perspective from our latest issue. You might recognize her from a previous issue. If you haven't, I highly recommend you go read her other stories. But Sandy is a Christian historical romance novelist and blogger. She also has a short story in the Guidepost compilation book In God's Time. She is also a contributor to the Mom Q blog. Sandy and her husband of 35 years live and work on a hobby farm, enjoy time with their children and grandchildren, and love to travel for work, research, and fun. So, Sandy, let's start with my favorite question. What was the inspiration behind your story, A Ruby Red Perspective?
Well, as I thought about the theme of that compilation of stories, the a battlefield theme, the military, I really wanted to do something a little bit different as far as not being on the battlefield, but showing a challenging um, the challenging aftermath math of being on the field. And I really started thinking the word perspective and how no matter what you're going through in life, you can have a perspective that will either make that worse for you and those around you, or may make it better. And so as I was thinking about the trials of a soldier who is now in a military hospital, what could his perspective be? And so there's a roommate in the hospital who has a different perspective, and there's this lady named Ruby who has a different perspective, and how for this soldier, those perspectives that were different from his, how those changed him. And so that's kind of the thought I was going with, was just the different perspectives and how that can really change us. And whenever we can look at a different side to the issue. And I also have a wonderful brainstorming group that really helped me, think outside the box and come up with some wonderful ideas to run with. So I was very grateful for them.
That sounds so good. So, just out of curiosity, how many tries did it take? Or I guess drafts is the more proper word. How many drafts did it take until you got to the story to where you felt like it said what it needed to say?
My main issue is as a novelist, I write a lot of words, and so getting down to less than 1,000 can be quite a challenge for me. So that is my biggest problem, is taking a story and then honing it down to what I think is the most important points. And so that usually takes me several tries to be able to cut out scenes or sentences or even words that aren't absolutely necessary. And so yes, that can take several tries to get down and get it honed down to what I think is the absolute part of the story.
Well, as a historical romance writer, I know there's always research involved. How do you avoid getting stuck in the rabbit hole of research?
Oh, I'm so good at that. I'm so good at running those rabbit holes. Yes, that is hard. And usually, I have at least one timer set. Sometimes I have a couple alarms on my phone set, and as somebody with ADHD, I need this for lots of things in my life, to have these alarms set, these timer set, multiple ones around the house, to remind me, okay, it's time to either refocus on something totally different or just switch from what I'm doing on a particular task to a different part of that task. And so, yes, that is how I how I try. I control um that bad habit.
That's a really good idea. I'm gonna need to steal that because I will spend an hour looking for just one little tiny detail that really could have made it. So
Yeah,
I like that a lot.
and really half the time those details get cut out of the story anyway.
Mm-hmm. And all that was for nothing. Now I know that you like to write historical romance, but sometimes we read something slightly different. So tell me, what is your favorite subgenre of romance to read? Like when you're just sitting down for entertainment?
Well, it's romance, but I do consider myself an eclectic reader, so I still like rom-coms and contemporary and suspense, and I'm not big on horror. I can't watch scary movies or any of that stuff. But then I'll read some women's fiction, so yeah, I am eclectic, but I always tend to that historical.
Yeah. Well, have you read any good books lately?
Actually, yes, I did. There's actually three that I just
Ooh.
did reviews for my blog, and just Monday, and all three of them were really great reads. I was very happy to review them, and post them. Did some author interviews on them, so a lot of fun. But there was let's see, there was The Pride of Babylon by Carolyn Jacobs, author Carolyn Jacobs was Chasing Time by Pamela G. Baker and by let's see, by Jody author Jody Wolfe and author Pamela G. Baker. I don't know if I said that. Author Jody Wolfe, there was Hannah's Quest. So those yeah, so if they people want to read more about those, they can head over to my blog. But I enjoyed all three of those very much. Yeah.
Good. Now, where is your blog on your like official author website?
Yes, it is. There's a link up top that'll take them right to my I guess I've been doing that for several years now, so there's lots of stuff to look at on there.
How often do you post reviews on it?
Reviews are I've been doing reviews, I guess, for about a year or so. Now they're
Mhm.
not all reviews, but I have got a lot in the last year. So before that it was just whatever I felt like. I did a lot of posting about my research for, my novels, and I've written short stories and posted them. So I've done kind of a hodgepodge of stuff on there.
Yeah. Well, speaking of your stories, I've noticed a lot of us historical romance writers have an era that we tend to gravitate toward. Do you have an era that's just like your favorite and you love to write in it?
Well, though I'm working on my first series and trying to get my debut novel out there, and it is set in England and starts in 1787, so the mid 18th century. So I do love that era. Yeah, it's just so different from the way we live. It's so fun to learn about life and the life and times. Um, of that era. It's actually the Georgian era, which uh, can be considered part of the Regency, but it's a little bit early Regency.
Yeah. You know, I have to say that is an interesting period in history, especially when you have like the colonies over in America and all that different stuff that was going on. But back to romance. A lot of people love to talk about tropes. So, just out of curiosity, what is your favorite romance trope to read, and what is your favorite romance trope to write? Because I know sometimes they can be a little bit different.
Okay. Well, mine are probably the same. I just love it when the man and woman is instant attraction, but then there's a ton of obstacles in the way, and so they all these obstacles to get to their happy ending. So that's my favorite trope. Yeah.
I'd say it makes it worthwhile if they can get through a few obstacles by the end.
Yeah.
All right, now let's talk about writing. What is a good piece of writing advice that you've received over the years?
Well, probably the best advice was to attend writers' conferences
Yeah.
because you're learning about writing, how to write, do the plots, how to avoid weasel words, how to structure your story, how important story is. It's just so many things you can learn, but you also learn about the business of writing and the building your platform, letting people know who you are and what you write and there's so many things along those lines that I had no idea about before I went to my first conference.
Yeah.
And so I've learned a lot there. And then one of the best things really is just making connections. I've met
Hmm.
so many wonderful writers. I've met publishers and editors and literary agents and readers because most writers are readers.
Hmm.
So it's just wonderful to make connections and in some cases some really wonderful friendships that follow you past the conference.
Well, there's a lot of conferences out there, so I'm always curious, what conferences have you attended so far?
I have for several years the American Christian Fiction Writers Conference,
Mm.
CFW, and the Blue Ridge Mountains Christian Writers Conference. And this year, for the first time, I plan to visit the Florida Christian Writers Conference.
Oh,
So I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, some of my writer friends in one of my critique groups, the leader for that group was invited to teach, and so now our little group is going to meet and get to well, we've met online, but we've never met in person. We're looking forward to that. Yeah,
oh, that is exciting. I love that.
yeah, yeah.
But let's talk about critique groups for a second, because I know some people are very anxious about having another person look at their writing and basically tell them all the things that is wrong with it. So, from your perspective, what makes a critique not only helpful, like as far as like telling you what you need to fix, but also encouraging so you're not ready to just throw away your whole story?
Yeah, well, it is, I find being critiqued by other writers, people that know the genres and know the rules of writing, all those things, to be invaluable. I mean, yes, it hurts. It hurts for somebody to say, this wonderful line that you wrote, this beautiful, beautiful line you wrote is garbage. Although nobody ever said that, but it just needs to be changed. You need to tweak this. Your grammar's wrong. You use the word already 5 times. It's just invaluable because they will see things that you can't see
Mhm.
because you're able to spot mistakes and they may have experience that you haven't learned, you haven't had these.
Mhm.
They can really teach you. I just find it invaluable. And you you just have to stop letting it hurt you and start seeing it as really a blessing helping you.
Yeah, I like that. Because, like you said, other people's perspectives, they can point out stuff that you've just never noticed in the bajillion times that you've gone over your story.
Yes. Hmm.
Well, before we go, Sandy, where is the best place for readers to find you if they want to keep up with your writing and wait for that wonderful day when you are going to have a book published or to hear about the next time that you have a short story published?
Yes, probably besides social media, I'm all over social media, but besides that, it would be my website, which is Sandy Kay Slawson Writer no, not at, SandyKaySlawsonWriter.org.
Mhm.
Yes,
All right, awesome. Thank you so much for joining us again today, Sandy. I will make sure to have links available if you haven't read any of her stories in Spark, but definitely go read A Ruby Red's Perspective in our latest issue, love is a battlefield. So thank you for joining us today, and make sure you make time to read. There's always time to read a good love story. All right. Good night, everyone.